Michael, we've talked about the early pioneering research that your father did at the University of Nebraska in developing DDS1 acidophilus. Could you explain then from there, from the university, what led to the establishment of the company, Nebraska Cultures, that was also founded by him, and how you came to be associated with it?
As I mentioned, he started at the University of Nebraska in 1957 and discovered DDS1 L-acidophilus in 1959. But based on his research work, he'd been asked in the 60s and 70s to speak all over the world. And in fact, he traveled all over the world talking about these lactic acid bacteria and the properties, the beneficial properties that he discovered, primarily of the DDS1 strain. And in the late 1970s, people would approach him occasionally after giving a scientific lecture or a seminar and say, you know, how do we find these bacteria? How can we get these bacteria to people? How can we turn this into some kind of product? And at that time, he started working to bring this product into the commercial arena. Mm-hmm. And so in 1981, he founded American Cultures and Enzyme Systems, which later we changed the name to Nebraska Cultures. And Nebraska Cultures was one of the first manufacturers of probiotic bacteria for the commercial market. There have been others that have been around just about that long, but one of the very first. And so in 1981 he founded Nebraska Cultures and continued at the university. Mm-hmm. But the family continued to run the business, has always run the business. It's still a family-run business. My background, I didn't start with Nebraska Cultures until about 1996. I came on as director of operations and been working with Nebraska Cultures ever since.
What is your background prior to coming to Nebraska Cultures?
My background was, of course, I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, where the University of Nebraska was. Of course, I was aware of my father's research. We occasionally traveled with him growing up. I remember visiting his lab as a young person and being fascinated by the science going on there. Mm-hmm. My background is not in science. My background is in the arts, actually. But we wanted to keep the business a family business, and so, of course, we worked very closely with scientists still at the University of Nebraska as our technical team, and in Wisconsin, where the plant is based. And so my background is in the management and operations side.
Thank you, Michael.